Good evening, Nerdbird Mafia and all the new friends this evening. A little less stressful tonight. We have Susan Constantine on the backstage. We have Eva joining us from Jacksonville, 7 days sober and with a sponsor. She's interested in asking Susan some questions tonight. I just got done from a meeting and it was probably one of the most fun meetings I've ever been to, partly because there was a man with Tourette's who would just randomly yell, "Fuck a chip." "Fuck a chip," he'd say from the back of the room. And I and many others were just in tears almost. So Susan's ready. We have an interesting live here. Not a whole lot of content tonight. Most people have already watched these interviews. What I did was submit the interview links with Sebastian's stepfather, his mother, and Seth Rogers. And Susan is on tonight. Welcome, Susan. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Susan, you and I came in contact back in 2020 before my recovery journey started. I had reached out to you. It was when Ahmaud Arbery was shot by two white men. And then shortly after, there were three African-American men who had been found hanging from trees, and we were debating whether it was suicide or a crime. I appreciate reconnecting with you 5 years later and you coming on this show. We will open up the telephone lines at the tail end of this. Susan, why don't you give everyone your background and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a human behavior expert. I specialize not only just as a practitioner in behavioral analysis, I actually have a master's degree in it. So unlike some of the other BLF, body language experts that are also trained, but in my background, it's more academic and also as a practitioner in the forensic science of behavioral analysis. So kind of it's a little bit different than some of the other folks out there. Been a trial consultant for almost over 20 years. I cover pretty much every high profile case there is. I've done over 2,500 national appearances, and I know you guys have done a lot too. So anyway, I seem to be the kind of go-to person when it comes to detecting whether somebody's being truthful or not.
Interesting. And we put out the information on Twitter initially when you gave the analysis. We haven't shared the PDF. I have that ready to go. As you saw, someone said, well, look, the behavior panel already did this. They said the stepfather and mother weren't deceptive. We are here for your opinion, and we respect all opinions, and we want to hear it. We know how divisive this case has gotten. And like I always say, opinion should evolve with new data. You're not stale on your education. It sounds like you have continued education. In fact, you were traveling today for that. So you are constantly learning about this field, yeah?
Yes, that's correct. I was training 75 attorneys and judges at the Marion County Bar Association. And so I did a keynote on how to detect deception, teaching them how to, or actually to learn the method in the 6-channel analysis. So I'm certified. I'm a licensed practitioner through the EIA group, which is out of England. So what I teach and what I was teaching them as well is how to identify specific signatures that are associated with deception. What I do not do is put any sort of subjective analysis in, because subjective analysis is your opinion. And really, when you're looking at forensic science, the behaviors, if you're coding them correctly, she'll speak for themselves. So I don't have to give you my personal opinion of what I think or feel. It's if there's indicators there, those are points of interest that we're going to look at, and we're going to tie it to context.
Interesting. I would love to sit down and play poker with you, because you can probably pick up on some tells, I bet.
It's definitely not in the eye-accessing cues, as I've heard some people say. That whole stuff has been debunked.
Interesting. We're going to jump right into it. Now, I have the PDF up on the screen here, Susan, and I guess my first question is, how do you discern sort of deceptive behavior versus these two individuals, the emotional stress that they're going through? If a child is missing, obviously, and there's some emotional stresses. So how do you separate the two when you're analyzing?
You have to always consider the baseline, the context, and the account. So those are the three things that you always have to consider. So when I'm doing a forensic report for an attorney that is analyzing a video, those are all of the things that I put on the sidebar, which is we have to consider this was, let's say, directly right after the child was missing. Or it could be that the emotion, it was due to lack of emotion, could be Botox. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to consider. But when you're considering all of these things, there are clusters that are associated with deception. So that's what I want to speak to, and which is what I pulled up here in the language. Now, this is a statement analysis report, and any of those what I call the deception sleuths, I think this would be really helpful for you guys to even do yourself. You can go on to Deceptio AI, and Mark McClish is the one who developed this with an IP guy that developed this app, whom I also have been in contact with many times. And there are certain words and phrases and how it is used throughout text that give us insight into how that person is actually processing information. So, for example, if someone were to make a comment about a car, and then later on they called it a vehicle, well, that would be interesting because we'd want to know, why did they change the language, the terminology? Could one be the getaway car and the vehicle's one somebody else drove or picked them up afterwards? So this is where we really start to look at language, word for word. And this is all from the person's subconscious. So, I mean, they're just rapid firing off a conversation, and, and every single word can be analyzed. So in Deceptio AI, I use this a lot in baseline. So for example, if I have a person that reaches out to me and says, I want to talk to you because I have a case that I'd like to share with you, which is my own personal story, and I'm being accused of being deceptive, or whatever it is, I get a ton of them. Little do they know, I run that story right through Deceptio AI because I want to know if their story they're telling me, just on the language itself, where do they score? And a lot of times, especially with something like this, a 52, I would have turned around and sent it back to him and said, okay, you ready to tell me the real story? So this was, this language analysis was combining both in combination of mom and the stepdad as if it were one, because I looked at them as a unit rather than individuals. You can also break it down to per individual. I did not run dads through, bio dad, because there was absolutely nothing that I found that was deceptive in any of the behavior that I saw. On this one here, since there was so much context in it and there were long interviews, I wanted to run this through first. Now, I just want you to know that's only one channel of 6 channels you look at. So the algorithm that I'm looking at when I'm watching behavior, just kind of give you a little background. I'm looking at what we call a 3-2-7. I'm looking for 3 indicators and at least 2 channels within the 6 channels, which can combine facial expressions. It could be the voice, the content, that whether their interactional style, their body language. There's multiple areas that we're looking at, and there's 27 points of interest that are only proven, and I want to really stress this, that are only proven to be deceptive. Anything outside of that is pseudoscience. I just want to let you guys know that, because really we work hard in the behavioral sciences industry to really raise the bar and not call out stuff that is not backed up by science and research. Okay. So when I looked at this, this statement, highly deceptive. Now, why? The question is, you asked me earlier, is there a way to explain it? Well, when it gets to this magnitude, they failed miserably together. So there is information within here that is really revealing, and I would really suggest you pop that up there because I think it's super interesting for people to know what I'm looking at and why people, for example, most people, well, when they're truthful, you will use contractions. They'll say, I didn't do it, I wasn't there, instead of saying I was not there, and they didn't use a contracture. That is a very formal way of disguising the truth. So there is these nuances in language that we analyze. And if you can imagine, like if on my team, I have a large team of experts that are qualified to do this. And that is that when I'm looking at a statement, this is just kind of a baseline from this Deceptio. But if you can imagine like a crime scene, right? We see them on some of these Law and Order shows, right? And you see all the pictures and all the lines, and you got them all kind of connected, and who's connected to what. That is what statement analysis looks like. So when we're analyzing a statement, we are drawing correlations. We're looking for omitted information. I'm looking for glossed over. What are you not telling us? Are you giving me too much information? Are you too vague? Are you too explicit? And all of this stuff is all has been put into a technology, which is super cool, and it will sift it all up for you in a microsecond. So I would suggest for anybody, if they can find manifestos or they can find statements that you can translate it immediately through Deceptio. Now they now have that availability, or you can go to rev.com and upload a video, and it will put it into a document, and then you can upload that into Deceptio, and then you can have it analyzed within a second. So I think this is super cool.
Interesting. And if there's a slide that you want me to go through, there's 15 pages here. Just let me know what page, and I'm happy to forward to that page. Go ahead.
You don't have to really look through all of them, because the whole thing is, these are all indicators in language. This is just content now. That's only one of the 6 channels, right? Just in content. They're already listed here. Where you see them mention the same word over and over and over again, or it could be, well, honestly or truthfully. And we know that that is associated with deceptive behavior, or using the words but, but, and you can literally erase the sentence in front of it, because they're literally giving you an opposition. This is what I'm saying, but they're saying something else, so you can literally erase the words before that. So you have to understand how statement analysis works, but you don't really have to figure that out, because this program has already figured it out for you.
Pretty cool. The analysis noted present tense verbs like hear, see, smell, while recalling past events. And in your experience, how reliable is that as a deception?
That's very powerful.
Versus trauma-based memory, versus trauma-based memory recall? Well,
smell is something that you're smelling in the present tense, right? Not past. Like, I smelt this, okay? Let me give you an example. I was sitting through the Casey Anthony trial. I was there the whole time. I did multiple hits on that one. And there was a point, and I'm going to bring this to home to you because you can get it. There was a point where there was an expert that was talking about the smell of the human decomposition that was in the trunk. Now, I'm going to ask your viewers out there, if a mother had heard that an expert was talking about the most grotesque thing, which is, the human decomposition of her daughter in the trunk of a car, what do you think her emotions would be? That's a question to you guys.
Eva, you followed that case, and that's your home case here that you were following.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, devastated, hysterical, in tears, everything that you would expect a mom to be.
Right, exactly. So what she exhibited on her facial expression, and I sat right there, right on the side of her, I saw her right there. She showed a micro expression of disgust. She went like this. Okay. Now,
wow.
Okay, that told me bringing her into recall of the odor created a psychophysiological response, which is one of the channels within the 6 channels. It was on point right within that same microsecond. So you can then correlate that expression to that content at that exact same moment. See how it works? So you have to correlate. There's a correlation. So back to this one, when you use the word smell is in present tense. Okay, so people that speak in present tense of a situation, this is where deception comes in, because when you're talking about something that had happened or that you recalled, you're going to speak to it in past tense. I smelt something bad, rather than I smell something bad. That's in present tense. So you have to tie it into the context of what he was asked or what he was talking about that provoked that response, and then you create the correlation. Does that make sense?
It does. I originally gave this PDF to our Discord group. We work on the back end on missing children cases and more. And a lot of people, their first reaction was, well, I talk this way. I say some of these words, does that make me deceptive? What do you say to those folks?
Well, it doesn't make you deceptive until you start to count them. So just because you use that phrase, let's now take an entire conversation of where there's a high stakes situation. Would you agree that this is high stakes?
It is, yes.
Okay, so if it's high stakes, then you have a lot to gain and a lot to lose. You have a lot to gain if you're going to lie, to be able to tell that there's a lot to gain, that you'll gain the respect from other people, because they'll think, okay, well, they're telling the truth. So it's really important that they believe me. Because the other side of it is, oh my God, if I'm not believed, what could this mean? They could arrest me. They could charge me. I might be, be looked at as being the person is of interest. So there's a lot to win or lose. So you also have to consider stakes. How high are the stakes? And is it really important to you? Like, you really have to have a lot at stake in order to detect deception. So back to your question is, just to make a phrase like saying, well, I honestly don't know. Okay. You say it one time. That's really nothing. When you start to see things repeated and you start to accumulate what we call deceptive indicators in language, then it starts to tell more and unfold a story. So to the person who asked that question, that person is correct. However, there is, when you start to add them up, the more they add up, because I'm telling you, I analyze these statements all the time. And most people, especially when they're telling the truth, are going to score around a 93. The fact that it was in the 50s, I'm telling you, there is something they're not telling us, and it's showing up in their language.
This tool, this AI tool that analyzes it, it's widely used in your community?
It is widely used within law enforcement.
Interesting. There's a good question up here. That was Deceptio? Is that how you say it? Deceptio trained on programs like Noldis? I'm not familiar with Noldis. This was created by originally like Shapiro, who is a renowned statement analysis expert. And then Mark McClish is also a renowned statement analysis expert. So it's based on police reports and known liars of what language that they consistently use that they found. So I don't know this particular program you're speaking about. I go right to the source, who is actually the creators and who actually do this as a practitioner. And these AI systems, just so everyone knows, because I'm in tech, they have to be trained by a professional human or a group of humans, right? There's a science to it. Noldis is a Dutch company that specializes in behavioral research technology. They develop software and hardware tools to use to observe, record, analyze, and understand human and animal behavior. So it's probably very similar to this. I would say that the two probably don't work together. They're very separate entities that probably are doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about sentiment analysis. So you're trying to determine how that person is actually processing, thinking, and how their language is coming across to other people. And you can analyze that. You can do the same thing with ChatGPT.
Absolutely. People pointing out that they've caught Seth over the past couple months, a year, caught in lies, but that's not your specialty. Your specialty is reading people's linguistics and more, right? You haven't dived into the fact checking of this. You are just doing it off of your experience in linguistics and reading their faces, and obviously loading into tools like this, right?
Well, I use a tool for you because this was an easy demonstration of one of the channels. So to answer your question, when you're doing behavioral analysis, we do not look at all of the context of all of the forensic evidence, okay? That will bias what we do. Because when you're watching the behavior, I'm analyzing, looking for specific points of interest that are being exhibited within 7 seconds of a probe or a stimulus question. That is what I'm looking at. Okay. So because I have cases that have come across my desk and they want to tell me everything there is to know about the case. I go, I don't want to hear it because that's going to bias me. So I'm already going to form an opinion. Because the language will speak for itself, the body language will speak for itself, the interactional style, the facial expression anomalies that I'm looking for, profiles, synchrony, duration of moments of emotion, how long they keep their, the eye closure, rapid eye blinking, and all this sort of thing that are all tied in. I know how to time it because some of them has to happen in 0.3 seconds. So when you do all of that kind of in depth, you don't need anything else. So that's not my job to say, well, the evidence says this or the evidence says that. I mean, okay, well, that's good. So now we need to create some correlations.
Questions from the chat. They asked which video or interview you analyzed of Seth. I'm putting it up on the screen. It was the one done off of Court TV. What's your take on Seth's? He went on Nancy Grace to take a polygraph. First time around, his meds interfered with that process. He had to take it again. But I'm more interested in your opinion because it's not your field, I guess. What's your opinion on him denying TBI, the polygraph test? So he's, TBI went to both mom and stepdad. They took the TBI analysis polygraph, but Seth refuses to. What's your take on that?
He could be skeptical. Does he have any other issues within his background? And if he is taking medication, was he on? Is he a drug user or has been a drug user? All of those things. First of all, you're not supposed to do any sort of analysis when a person is on any sort of med. You need to have that ahead of time because it is going to affect how you're going to your motor movements, all of that. That will affect it, and also too whether you're autistic, you have ADHD, all those kind of things we do need to know from a psychological point of view. So all those are important. The fact that he didn't want to do it, what I would want to know is, does he have anything in his background? Has he ever had any former convictions? Does he have a drug abuse problem? So you have to do those considerations. Remember I was talking about the reason why he doesn't want to take it. Consider this, consider that, consider this, and consider that. Now, I just want to see him when he's telling me the story. So I did look at all this because I mentioned to you prior to getting on this, I'm very familiar with this case because I cannot disclose because I have an NDA, but I'm very familiar with this case and have been working this case. So I can't give you some information that I already know why I know it.
And I think it's interesting. So people that are biased or think that this channel is biased, and I know who you're working with, and I don't get along with that person, but still here you are on the show because we want to hear everyone's opinion, because when it comes to a missing child, every opinion is important, at least to me. So there's some behavior, I think, from everyone that sort of, I mean, you could say that Seth's been caught in a lie. I've had a conversation with Chris, and it wasn't a scheduled conversation. I was in Tennessee on the ground, and he had some flyers. As you know, flyers get expensive, and I just depleted my stock, and someone put me in contact with him. We ended up talking for about 2.5 hours, and I relayed the information as best as I can. I didn't fudge it. I didn't lie. I basically relayed it without recording it. And I know that my memory is good because, you know, I have a text message thread with Chris, and did I remember this correctly? Yes, you did. Did you, you know, and so on and so forth. But since that, people have, you know, they've pulled inconsistencies from that case, saying what he says now differs, and people saying, well, first the dogs went to the retention pod. Well, that's not what he told me, and I'm just conveying it. It seems like everyone, does time change stuff like that? Does time change these people's memory when it comes to something so significant? I have a son and a daughter, you know, so as an example, if TBI wanted to interview me, it wouldn't matter. I have a criminal history. I would still provide, God bless you, I would still provide TBI, a polygraph. And I would do anything for my son if he was missing. I don't know if you have children. So that seems a little odd to me. And, you know, but maybe there are reasons good and sufficient to Seth that he didn't do it. I don't think they would be good and sufficient to me, I guess. But go ahead.
What you and I would do is not what everybody would do. Not everyone that grieves is going to grieve the same either. So that's one thing you have to consider. So when I'm even looking at mom and stepdad, I could say, mom doesn't show the emotion that I would have considered as being, I'm not seeing any sort of the facial expressions that are showing sadness and grief and despair. I mean, do I find that odd? Yeah, I do find that odd. Okay. But is that enough? So it isn't. And that's the main thing that I want to get across, is that it is not just because you're looking at the language or just because he didn't take the polygraph isn't a sign of deception. There are other reasons why. It could be even the interviewer. I'm sorry to say, it could be an interviewer who, the way they're asking the question, is causing a stimulus or causing a reaction. So there's a lot of things you have to consider. And that's why I keep going back down to, you have to look at this as a 6-channel analysis. You can't just point out, well, you didn't take a lie detector test. Now, if it were my child and they're missing, I would do everything I could to try to find my kids. I have two adult daughters, okay? But on the other hand, let's say I had issues with the cops before and I've been arrested and accused, or I've been in jail. I might be a little skeptical. I may not want to do it because maybe it might come out wrong and I'm not going to take that risk. So you have to consider that.
Interesting. Let's see. I had some questions here. I think we already answered sort of the emotional pieces. In your view, does the tone suggest suppression, self-control, or fabrication performance?
Which character are we talking about? Dad?
For Dad. Well, actually, for both, if you wouldn't mind, for all parties, so for all 3 caregivers. Okay,
so Dad, when I saw him, especially when he's standing outside the police station, he's out there with a megaphone, right? He's angry, he's frustrated, it's a call to action. I want you to do something. He's calling him out, right? Now you have to consider, would you put yourself in that? I mean, and I know a lot of, when you think about arson cases, the arson might even show up on the where the fire was, and so that they want to appear, right, that they're interested. Now, yes, you have to consider, well, is he that great of an actor that he's able to do that? What emotions would I would have considered? Anger, frustration. Would I have considered someone that was passive? No, because this is, given the extremeness of it, and he didn't have any answers yet, I would be pissed, right? I'd want the cops to do something about it. So when I look at that visceral effect that he had, it appeared to be consistent with somebody that's angry and frustrated, given the context that there was no answers. Now, when you're talking about a specific clip and he's asked a probe where he's trying to deviate from, that'll create cognitive load. That's the clip I want to see. Because when you look at it in totality, I'm seeing a guy who's frustrated, he's angry, he wants answers. He could be avoiding taking the lie detector test because of other reasons. I don't know. I always say I don't know until I know, until I look at the actual video clip, and then I can tell you, okay, I see 3 indicators and 2 channels within that probe, and then I can't explain away that what the context or the account or what his baseline is and compare it to that. Then I'm going to say that's a cluster, highly deceptive. Now, that is the research, guys. That's the only one. I mean, globally, when we're looking at this from high stake situations, high stake lies, not just subjective analysis on so-called body language analysis, which absolutely drives me nuts, because most of them, if you do some research on them, have absolutely no academic background. They've read books, they watch videos, and all of a sudden they pull out certain elements and boom, they think they're a body language expert. Okay. I see it all the time. So that from a behavioral sciences background, as someone that's been trained not only just forensically, but also as an academic, we need to raise the bar on how to do this stuff, because what we say to people matters. How we instruct people matters. And they take this information, they start to applying it to other things that they see. And what if they're wrong? You know, I mean, they know some stuff, but they don't know how to do. And I'll tell you why. There's only 16 of us globally that are certified and licensed master trainers. That's it in the globe.
In this analysis, which section of the transcript raised the strongest deception flags to you personally, Susan?
I think that my question.
Sorry, we both have Eva. Eva had the same question, I think. So it's perfect that I.
The main thing for me is the contractions. We see that a lot. And there's not just one, guys. There's no such thing as one is a higher level. We look at pronoun usage, whether they put themselves into the situation or whether they avoid it. Pronoun usage is really important because most people will skip over, eliminate. They'll give you vague information, so they'll never really give you much. They won't put themselves into the event. They won't say I, me, and I, me, or we. Okay, they're not putting themselves in there. But in here, I would say contractures were one of them, and the fact that they didn't use contractures where they should have is just all it is an indicator. It doesn't mean they're lying. It's just an indicator. And unless you have a group of them in a cluster, they're nothing and shouldn't be even considered. Okay, so now let's go to mom. So I'm looking at 52 muscles in her face. Okay, so I'm a facial action coder. What does that mean? That means that I know what muscles have to fire in your face to create a certain emotion, right? Sadness, happiness, anger, disgust, contempt, etc. Now, when I hear her give her story and she's talking, I want to ask you a question. Do you see any grief muscles in her forehead? Those are little horizontal lines that come across here. This is what we call an AU, action unit. When a person is sad or show grief, their corners of their eyebrows will come up. You watch her eyebrows. They never move. They're frozen in space. They never change. So what I had to consider, does she have Botox? Does she have Botox in her forehead to where they don't move? And that is a consideration. So then you look at the lower region of the face. Now I'm going to be looking for this muscle right here to lift up and create a chin boss. This would go in correlation with the eyebrows coming up. Okay, that's true sadness and grief. And it'll cause these horizontal lines right here. That's the inner corner. Now, when sometimes you'll see outer corners too. That's another AU, action unit. There is nothing here. And there is nothing hardly here. So she is in a place, so either she could have consideration, is she medicated? Is she on Valium or something that would slow her motor movements down to where she doesn't show the facial expressions of emotions that you would have found consistent with sadness and grief and despair? She was fairly consistent all the way through and never really changed. So that was her baseline. So the question is, when you're talking about something that's so emotional, you're going to see these muscles fire. It's impossible for it not to, because they're connected to the facial nerve in the brain. They all work together as a system. When you're talking about something sad and you say you're upset about it, you're going to show those muscles. It's involuntary. You can't fake it to make it. So the question to me is, why are those muscles not firing? And why are those grief muscles not firing? That's the big question here.
Interesting. Someone asked if Botox will change an analysis.
It doesn't, wherever the Botox is. And I just mentioned that 2 minutes ago. I said, unless there was Botox. Okay. So the other thing,
I would say even with people with Botox, though, like you see celebrities all the time, like you still can sense some expression in somebody's face.
Exactly. And so let me tell you another thing. What I look for is the asymmetry of the facial expression. Sorry, a bug just flew on me. Asymmetry. So when a person is really trying hard to lie, to tell a story differently from what they know, even if they had Botox, depends on how it was injected, right? So you will see a fight between one eyebrow and the other one. And usually when people are not being truthful, with or without Botox, you'll see one eyebrow pop up higher than the other. It's asymmetry. Happens every time. Go back and look at Anthony Weiner. You can see it right there. It's once you've been trained properly, you can't unsee it. So she didn't show any expressions in her forehead. Period. End of story. No movement in her eyebrows. Nothing. Now, I have to combine both upper and lower face so then I can get a true picture. So what I'm looking for is that downward turn. There was a moment where she would cry, there she'd get emotional. I want to look for the chin boss coming up and causing this wrinkling here. And when somebody cries, you're going to see this maybe a stretch here and then a downturn, depending on her facial structure. Then I could tell you. But overall, and I think that every mom that is out there would say, that seems peculiar. So I'm going to write that down. That's interesting, because that is what we call a face anomaly. A face anomaly is one that is incongruent with the context and the baseline and the account of the situation. So given the account, was that the fact that there was no firing of grief muscles or grief horizontal lines up here, or a chin boss popping up or even quivering, that is considered an F1, face anomaly. So I'm going to give that 1 point. So now I'm looking for what are the other ones. So I start to cluster them together, tied to the question or the stimulus that was asked. And then I go, okay, now I've got a true cluster, and it is consistent with the context and the baseline in the account. That is going to be a cluster, and there's high probability there was deception.
I want to back up and just ground everyone in the chat for a second. And Susan, you said you have kids. If your child was 15 and she went missing, it's been a year, would you be able to focus on things like sex? Would you be depressed? Sort of, there's some behavior from Seth that outside of your analysis that people have watched and over the years, and perhaps chasing clout isn't the right word, but starting a YouTube channel and allegedly sleeping with creators. Me as a dad, I'm just going to say I've been in full-blown depression at points in my life, and my male organ doesn't work during that. And I've talked to therapists and others, and that's a side effect for men when depression hits. But you personally, if your daughter was 15 missing, is that something that you'd focus on?
Those are just behaviors, right? So is this a behavior that he's always consistently done? Has he now jumped on kind of like the 15 minutes of fame wagon? Is there some attention-seeking behavior and using this as a way to get more attention? I don't know. But those are things that you should consider, because if you're in a court of law and you think about like a trial, if he were considered being a suspect, what do you think they're going to talk about? His behavior, getting on a podcast. They would start pulling out all these negative things, sleeping with some of the podcasters. All of this kind of nefarious behavior is going to work against him. But does it cause him to become a person of interest? Because, we know that biomom, and we also know that stepdad allegedly took a polygraph and passed. Now, dad hasn't taken one.
Well, people in the chat are saying, so I just want to stop here so we can, again, get grounded. So I want to clarify. When I said that he hasn't taken one. That is the conversation from Chris Proudfoot to my ears. Whether or not he's taken one, people are pointing out he may have taken one. We have no official confirmation from law enforcement that I know of that he's taken it, besides him maybe saying it, or, so this is hearsay. A lot of this stuff that I've conveyed is hearsay, and I don't know if it's true for the folks in the chat. I, on that first YouTube, was conveying what he said. So I just want to clarify that piece. I will also say that as critical as I am of Seth and his behavior, I am also critical of Katie and her behavior, and Chris. One of the things that struck me is, why not tell the world that a search warrant was executed a year after Sebastian went missing? And more importantly for me, after that came out, it was learned that Katie lied to people around her about it. She had a brand new phone number. As a tech guy, I don't understand that part, because when police seize your phone, they don't seize your phone number. They have access to the back end of Verizon or AT&T to get those records. So why not just move your SIM over or move your service over to the new phone when they seize it? Instead, she called people from the new number and said, I got a new number. I got a new phone. My phone broke. So that already sets a baseline for lying for me. Why, or the reasons, I can't tell you, but I am trying to find a missing teenager. I am critical of everyone around him right now. We don't know these people from Adam besides the 2.5 hours that I've spent with Chris. I've never interacted with Katie, but some of this stuff just doesn't make sense in terms of behavior. Now, you're right. Everyone is different. We've seen other cases where people have used missing children for clout, many of them, in fact. So that's nothing new to me. But I want to have clarity for the chat that for anyone that thinks that I'm biased, I have questions about all three caregivers, to be honest.
Yeah, and there's information that I know that I can't share. So, I have to leave it at that. There is a report that I have done that does identify a suspect that has been turned into the FBI. So what they do with it is out of my hands. That is based on another program, which is called iAlert, which is how to identify a person of dangerous intent. So in order to detect deception or look for a person of interest, there are specific what they call PD pins and pins. And, I'm getting way in the weeds because, guys, I do not base anything on subjective analysis. And that's where I think that there's a disconnect here, because everything that I do has to have a foundation that's rooted in proven, validated research, not just a written paper or white paper, but studies after studies after studies of what deceptive behaviors are. We know what they are, and we know how to cluster them. We know how to time them, just the same way is how to identify a person of dangerous intent. There are pre-indicators of characteristics of an assailant that I look for. And yes, there was someone that we targeted. I targeted. My professor targeted. It's already been turned in. So now who that person is still unknown. Okay? So I just want you to know that I am very careful in what I'm going to share, because I am not going to say mom is guilty, dad is guilty, this one is not showing the right emotion, which is, I'm going to use words or is incongruent from sadness and grief. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, oh, she's not showing sadness. And if it were me being a mother, what would I do? Well, what I would do and what another mother would do are two different things. Everybody grieves differently. So I go right back down to, what is the research? How can I apply it? Where's the stimulus? Where's the probe? And I'm going to start to find if there are clusters of behavior that are deceptive. Then I'm going to say, we got a problem right here. And as far as I'm concerned, when I'm looking at language, especially when I'm looking at bio mom and stepdad, gives me a tremendous amount of question, because just in the language in itself is a point of interest, because there is a lot of deceptive indicators within that language. Now you couple it with the incongruency of sadness and grief and what that looks like and how it's supposed to fire on the face. There is an inconsistency. So that's, now can I explain it away? Was she on medication? Has she told the story so many times that she doesn't even cry anymore? There are people that have so grief stricken that they almost can't even show emotion anymore. And I know, because I've met them, especially when someone's lost someone they love. So bringing everything into context, we still have a lot of work to do on this case. And I'm so glad you're opening up the door to getting some concrete answers. but we don't have them all yet. We still have a missing child, and we have 3 people, and also whoever this person of interest is outside the roadhouse needs to be checked out. Now, is there someone else involved? Was there something nefarious going on within the family? Was there motive and intent behind it, why he was missing? Absolutely, there could be. And that's why we might see some of these indicators firing off here and there, where someone is deviating from the truth, or concealing, or covering up their true emotion and masking and all that kind of stuff. This is where it gets very interesting.
Do you feel, Susan, so you load these into the AI tool, sometimes you evaluate and watch videos. Do you feel it's an advantage to watch a video, or is it more advantageous for you to have, if Chris, Katie, and Seth were in this room right now, would you be able to, in real time, detect lies? And would that be more helpful versus watching a video that was already taken?
In real time, it's better. And by the way, this AI tool, that's the only AI tool I use as a baseline if somebody sends me a statement. That is not real-time analysis. Okay, when the best way to analyze a person and is true is not through a video, it's real time. That means face to face during an interview. Okay, that's what we call scans. The scans is a program that I use, is 6-channel analysis, and there's one that's the scans, which is through video, but the R at the end, scanner, is in real time, meaning that you are interacting with the person as an investigator, interrogator in real time. And there's nothing that trumps real time, because there's a huge difference in that chemistry and interaction that you have with people.
Interesting. Would your NDA preclude you from talking to them in real time?
I would have to get clearance.
Okay. I'm going to let Eva ask a couple questions, because I know your time is limited. This went super quick. We're on 53 minutes and coming up on the hour. So I'm going to let Eva, if she has any questions, and I'm going to open up the telephone lines for the audience to call in. We'll get a couple calls in to ask a couple questions, and then we'll wrap it up in about 10 minutes, if that's okay with you, Susan.
Sure.
All right, Eva, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it was very informative. So you answered my questions before I had them, but I wanted to touch on something you were saying, and I think this is important. Our chat got really heated here. I don't know if you could see it, but
I see all these icons flying around. And
yeah, like Nerdy said, this is just a very, very divisive case. Mm-hmm. But something I think is really important that you touched on. People really do react differently to things. We've joked about this before. It kind of made me, you guys were talking about it, if my kid was missing. We've joked about it before that Nerdy cries more than I do. And it's and it's not true. It's about the same, and it depends on the situation. But usually, when something happens where, something shocking were to happen to us, he's the first one. He immediately he tears up. Goes into his feelings. Me, I'm more
mm-hmm.
I just go blank. And then I have my cry later on. So I think that's really important. Like what you were saying, I think that's really important for people to remember. Not everybody reacts the same. So just because somebody didn't just, break down in hysterics, that doesn't mean guilt, correct?
No, it does not. And the other thing is, what I'm hearing here is, we have this, it's not just here, it's literally is an issue with just being overly emotional about something. They become very passionate about something. They stand behind it. They believe they know they're right. They're totally invested in it. And when you do that, you lose your cognitive ability to be a critical thinker. And so that is in my world, really a dangerous place to be. Because when you become so passionate about something, you become very emotional. Your cognitive... And so you are high emotion, low cognition. You need to increase your cognition and lower your emotion so you can think clearly. So for myself, I can remove every bit of the noise, every bit of it. And all I do is look at the evidence in the behavior. That tells the story. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. That's just this is just noise.
We got a caller on the line here, Susan. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Sure.
Who do we have on the line?
Yeah, this is UA, Crimson Tide. So my question, first and foremost, is just like in academics, when you would be, let's say, writing for a journal and you're required to disclose conflicts of interest, your NDA would be considered a conflict of interest by many people. My question is, is, do you have any financial conflicts of interest in this case?
None.
First of all, that could contribute to your analysis of people's deception or truthfulness when they're being interviewed.
Now, I think what you're talking about this case or just any case. Now, I am generally hired by the state or the defense, or could be an investigator, or could be a private client that says, I want you to look at some videos and give me your analysis. I only work directly with attorneys or government agencies. That's it. That's who I work with. Because why? People, if a parent calls me and they want to know more about a missing person or their son or something, they're too emotionally invested. I can't work with them. I have to separate myself from it. I don't want all the information. I have to look at just in the video or whatever it is, or the review. And then upon there, I'll say either I can help you or I can't help you. Okay, so I can tell you, unequivocally, I've turned down more cases than I take because there are indicators of deception that would work against them. Now, in this case of Sebastian, there's no money and there's no contract with them. There is no financial gain for me. I could care less. I'm just called as an expert to look at something and give them my professional opinion. And when we talk about academic, I want you to be clear. This is not by writing a dissertation paper. Okay, this is about applying. Yeah, this is about applying a research vetted skill. You need to know the research in order to apply it to your practice.
Right. But if there is a financial thing that would would affect your ability to objectively evaluate that. So
I can tell you that how many times I've taken a case, I've reviewed it, and I said, you sure you want me to go into report? Because I don't think this is going to work on your behalf for your client. No. I don't want it in a report. Okay, good. Because we're not going to help you. We won't be able to help you because it's going to work against you and your client. So just so you know.
And I think other people in chat were wondering, just before I go, but can you explain the 6 channels that you were talking about? And then thank you.
I'm going to give you a quick little.
Crimson, are you the one that Chris Proudfoot wanted me to call? No. How are you?
Well, I was going to just give you some of the information regarding my phone call.
I'm going to show you what I'm doing.
That was what I was talking about.
Can you see this board? This is the face, the body, the voice, interactional style, content, and psychophysiology. Within all of these categories, there are subcategories. For example, the face, I'm looking for an anomaly or a duration. Is it not fitting with what is known felt emotion episodes? Is it too short or is it too long? Like when you think about Amber Heard, her emotions were too long, they're animated. So I would have given her, the duration was too long, so she would have fallen under an F3, which is the duration of the emotion was too long. Well, for what we know is natural onset and offset of emotions and how they come on and off the face. So there is a science behind it. And I'm looking at the science and applying the principles to the analysis. So here's the 6 channels, but within each one of them, there are only certain things. So when you hear other body language experts, they'll start pulling out things that are not even a point of interest that has been proven in research as deceptive. It's just something they saw. And it's not right all the time. It's not. So I'm sorry for, having to make excuses for them, but we're raising the bar. And I'll tell you what, this is so powerful. It's accepted in the UK courts. It has passed the Dolber standard for evidence.
Well, now, let me ask you this, because we were talking about the differences in when they gave in accounts, I guess you could say, and people have a lot of times honed in on like the use of the word thud, the use of the word noise, whatever, coming from Sebastian's room that Katie was alleged to have heard, or states that she heard at around 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Give or take. Now, would you say that it's more concerning if the person repeats the same language consistently throughout all the interviews, because that would be a sign of having a truly rehearsed narrative that they're repeating, or by using different language to describe a sound, or maybe clarify upon being asked to explain what they meant by that, that would be give them more credibility.
All right, so when you're talking about, let's just say she heard a thug, like something fell on the ground or something that was concerning, right? So she says that was the first initial response. It would, I heard this thug, right? So then if she were asked another question, well, can you describe to me what the thug sounded like? Did it sound like this? or did it sound like, something else and give another? No, it sounded more like a thug, but it wasn't really quite a thug. It was like this. And the fact that it was still within that category, it wouldn't have been considered being outside the bounds of the same. I just explained it a little bit differently. But when you're starting to call, let's say a person as by their first name, and then you're dropping it, and then all of a sudden you call them by their first name, and then all of a sudden there was a big fight, and the two of them split, and one went home. All of a sudden that person's name now came to a she or it, and now there's this distancing away from the person you're already calling them by their first name. If you can't explain it away, like if you use their first name in the context of the event, and then you use the word she, most people would associate that, and that is considered in bounds. But then if there is a deterioration of that relationship, you may not, like that girl, that woman, or that bitch. Okay, now it's deteriorating.
That boy,
right?
That's always usually refers to Sebastian as that boy, which I find odd, but
right.
Sarah, Karen Reed referred to John O'Keefe as that body. She was still found innocent by a jury, right?
Right. There's a different threshold. It doesn't mean that necessarily Karen Reed was innocent, though. It just means that she didn't meet the legal threshold beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
But I was just wanting to clarify that regarding your motivations, and like I said, and then also the stages. People don't just have grieve differently. They also go through various stages of grief in different orders and it isn't necessarily in a linear order. There's 7 stages of grief, and you can always revert back to them throughout.
Right, those are feeder memories.
So that's important for people to know as well.
Well, they are, and there's a lot.
I'm gonna free up the line and I'm gonna let Susan answer.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Right. Thanks for calling in. Next caller. Yeah. I just want to say, if I may, if this makes sense, I feel like when people get connected to someone in a case, that there's automatically going to be a bias. So when Crimson dials in, I already know that she's talking to Chris. There's a bond there that happens, human to human, and a bias that's created. And the same for anyone else in this case, right? It's I hate to say it, but it's a part of that. I've heard of other creators going out and having drinks with these, caregivers. That's, after 2 or 3 hours of cocktails and talking to someone, you're going to create a bond and a bias. Am I wrong?
Yes, and that's the reason why they placed Casey Anthony directly in front of the jury. And so they had a connection with. It's the reason why George Zimmerman, one of the jurors, had a connection with George because she started calling him by his first name. When you're looking at someone, you build a relationship and connection with them, you become biased. And we find that people that like you, that you have a relationship with, you tend to believe them. So let's look at that research, okay? So I get all of these different stages of grief. That's for a grief expert to talk about how the 7 stages of grief. That doesn't change that the fact that she's talking about something emotional and she's not showing any grief within her face anywhere. It's considered a point of interest. So now, whether somebody goes in and through a certain stage and they trigger a memory, usually when they're talking about a very sensitive part of it, you're going to see a trigger. Even if it leaks out just instantaneously, and then they try to mask it, but it'll come out. You'll hear it in their voice. You'll see it in their forehead, or you might see a little chin boss or a little downward turn very quickly. And you go, okay, well, they're tapping into that emotion, right? And it was consistent with what was being shared or what she's talking about that time. Other times it is not. So, guys, this is, I'm talking for 1 hour. This is a 2-day. To do this. It's not something you're going to.
What about these are you can't anticipate the calls and when they're going to come in and cut you off. Who do we have on the line?
Yeah, my name's Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in the analysis part, but let's just look at the date that Sebastian went missing. Are you aware of that?
February 20th.
I don't work with on dates or times and that stuff. Nope, that's not my work.
I said February 26th, right? I mean, February 25th, he came home and then he was reported missing on the 26th.
Well, he went missing 8 years to the very day that Katie filed for divorce from Seth. What do you think the odds of that are?
Coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think so. I really don't.
That's exactly what I've been talking about. We form an opinion, we find one thing, we got a nugget, we want to jump on it, we want to hang on to it like a dog with a bone. And that's not the way it works, my friend.
Well, let me ask you, Carl, if you don't think it's a coincidence, what significance do you think that it holds?
Well, I mean, Sebastian went missing, and then on day 2, technically, Seth had his sister, as he claims, set up a GoFundMe. Who does that and why? I mean, he didn't know that he wasn't going to be, returned within a couple days. Why?
Are you asking me the question?
Yeah. If on day 3 or whatever, why would you have it?
All right, so I'm a behavior analyst. It has to do with body language and all the 6 channels, not in the coincidences of why they do what they do. And I wouldn't know that until I interviewed them.
Yeah, and I'm not really interested in this science, side of things. I'm more interested in the common sense side of things. And the day he went missing and then immediately setting up a GoFundMe, let's use our common sense here.
Well, I can tell you, just so I could give you an example, let me tell you something that was really weird. When my mother passed away, my stepfather was already packing up in the hospital. So now you could say, what is the coincidence of that? Why would my stepfather be packing up my mother's stuff and taking her glasses and eyeglasses and getting all the stuff packed up, and she hasn't even died yet? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. People do weird things.
But let's stay on topic. We're not talking about your mom or your stepfather, respectfully, and I'm sorry for your loss.
It's human behavior. You can't judge because he did that this means that. X plus Y doesn't mean Z. Doesn't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm still,
Carl's on. I want to give one more or 2 callers a chance to ask their question. Carl, thanks for calling in. Carl raises a ADHD question for me, Susan. Because it sounds like a Tennessee drawl that he had. Maybe I'm wrong, but when these tools or people like you analyze linguistics, does a drawl or an accent, does that change your analysis at all? No,
because it doesn't. It's not based on your level of education or socioeconomics. Your language is your language, and your language is unique, and so your language is compared to your own language.
Interesting. Thank you. I'm going to take one more call, Susan. I want to be, you have given us an enormous amount of time already and some input. Now, everyone may not agree with that input, but a reminder again that there is no stone unturned in terms of finding a missing autistic teenager. So it is what it is. People may not like it. People may like it. This is part of being a creator. We talk to everyone. We are respectful to everyone. Again, this chat, you're allowed to swear. You're allowed to have your opinion. No derogatory comments. If anyone else wants to call in, we will give it another minute. Otherwise, I will leave the floor to Eva and Susan.
Does anybody have a question?
So we're hoping we'll get one more call in. I know the second that we start talking, we're going to hear that ring again.
There we go.
Oh,
that's not the telephone ring. That's someone becoming a subscriber, which we appreciate. We want to make sure everyone. I'm not good at this part, Susan. I suck at it actually. So everyone, if you guys could leave your DNA on the like button, that would be appreciated. We appreciate everyone subscribing tonight. We appreciate everyone's chat, everyone's input. We'll take, if we don't get a telephone call, we will maybe one of the mods or Eva can post a question up on the screen so we can wrap up with that question. I would love, Susan, to have all 3 caregivers up on the screen talking to you. So maybe we can reconnect and see if that's something that's feasible, because a lot of this is hearsay. A lot of people are noting, well, I seen the chat stuff that I said the other night. Again, that's hearsay. That's from one man's mouth to my ears and then to you guys. I'd rather hear it directly from the horse's mouth. So with that, if anyone has questions, I will put them up on the screen. CH says, can you provide some references for validation studies, Susan?
Where do you want me to put it? I'd have to send it to you, and then you can send it to your group.
I'll send it on. So yeah, if you send it to me via email, I will post it on X after. I appreciate that. I think
they
that
can go on my website too.
Go ahead and give folks your website.
Yep, SusanConstantine.com. Are they wanting the white paper? Is that what they're wanting?
CH, if you want to clarify in chat, if you want the white paper, she's willing to provide that as well. And we'll be happy to share that. What other cases are you working on currently, Susan? Anything interesting? Anything that the true crime community would be interested in?
Well, working on, and then I can't share with you cases I'm working on because they're my personal cases. I can't divulge that on this podcast. But literally every case that's coming that you see in high-profile cases on Court TV, those are the cases that I'm covering.
Excellent.
So just watch Court TV. I did one yesterday. So
Perfect.
Yesterday was Luigi Mangione.
It's an interesting one. Everyone seems to be following as well. The real reason I had you on, Susan, is that I have about 10 questions that I have to ask Eva after this that I'd like you to analyze her to tell me if she's lying to me.
Well, I got to find out what's at stake here first.
Not really fair because I'm sick and I'm on cold medicine, so you know.
Roger's excuse there, Eva.
Yeah, that's the thing you have to consider, right? So, yeah, I deal with these tough questions a lot, and also you have to remember I'm in the true crime genre, so I'm one of the Crime Con speakers, and you know you've got followers that they're so invested in it, and and a lot of these podcasters, like including yourself, are doing a great job and can have solved a lot of cases. You know, Vinny from Court TV loves it because it helps. I mean, podcasters are great. However, you know, when we have others that are, you know, they study it a lot, they're consumed in it, and then they're trying to create some sort of connections and hypothesis without evidence in it. That's, you know, they're drawing these correlations and they're already coming to a conclusion that goes against everything that I do. We don't draw just on subjective analysis. It's all objective analysis. Peter Hyatt's, that's in statement analysis. Peter Hyatt's analysis, God rest his soul. Yeah, he was a statement analysis guy. Who has popped that up there? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this was your website is up on the screen. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for the mods for making sure this is a safe space for everyone. Thank you, Susan, for joining this evening on a Friday. I know it's time that you usually get paid for, I'm sure. So we appreciate any time that you've given us tonight. I'm sure we'll be following up on other cases, and I'm sure I'll also have some follow-up questions for you after, and appreciate the white papers that you're going to send over, and we will share that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where they can go very quickly to get them. Just go to EIAgroup.com. And Dr. Cliff Langsley, it's on there, the white paper. Everything you need to know is on there. You can pull up all the white papers. And you can also go on Humantel, HUMINTELL. Both of them, I'm certified licensed trainers. So you can go in there and you can pull up all the white papers. All I'm going to do is pull them up on my computer and send them to you guys. So you can get them right online.
Perfect. Well,
okay, you got them right there.
Be well, and we appreciate your time tonight, and we will be in touch.
You're welcome.
The analysis of Seth, she said there's no deceptive behavior, although I did not get a PDF. But now we know the tool that she used to do her analysis, and we can run the analysis ourselves with Deceptio, right? So we can take that video, upload it in Deceptio, and do a follow-up stream. Perhaps that follow-up stream, Kaylee Jones will be joining again. Kaylee was autistic. She went missing around the same age Sebastian went missing, and she came home later when she felt safe to do so. So perhaps those two topics we can touch on. I think, look, guys, I'm a smart guy, and I know that everyone has their bias, which is why I asked the question, right? And you start talking to families, you start interacting with them on a daily basis, you start calling them on the phone, you're going to have a bias. If you have an NDA like Susan does, yes, there would probably be a bias. I know she says there's not, but I'm going to disagree and say that there's probably a bias there. With that said, I don't care. I just don't. I don't care. This is about Sebastian Rogers. I want to get answers for Sebastian Rogers. I don't give a shit about any of the caregivers, respectfully. I'd be happy to have them come on if Susan is able to and can interview them in real time. But I just don't care about all the other noise. I don't. I know there's talk about, well, you said this and it's not true. I said what was true as far as I understood it from Chris Proudfoot's mouth. That's the best I can do, right? If people want to question if it's true, simply text Chris. He's got a radar detector in his truck that I was sitting in that recorded the entire thing. So I'll leave it there. Eva, it's nice seeing you tonight. It's nice knowing that you are 7 days sober. I'm proud of you for getting a sponsor. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Everyone in chat and mods, thank you so much for coming tonight. And we will make sure we follow up with Kaylee Jones, that we follow up with the Seth Rogers piece. Some of this we can do on our own, and we will. So I'll say to everyone, please be kind to each other. Please keep Sebastian at the forefront of this conversation. Please understand that people gain biases by simple things in life, like interacting with people, even if it's for a short amount of time. Look at me. I interacted with him for 2.5 hours, and I almost went against the grain and didn't disclose information. And I've never done that in 5 years. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I think you touched on something important earlier. No stone left unturned is how we find people, right? and biases will cause you to not unturn certain stones. It was fiery in here tonight, but it was fun hanging with you guys. Everybody be well.
And let's end the stream with everyone showing their green support for Sebastian, because this is who it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm going to